The word best has universal meaning to everyone, the highest degree of quality or whatsoever, superlative in short. However, it holds a different meaning to each and every single person. Some say it's to be among the greats in history, some say it's to amass copious amounts of wealth, or to copy someone else's looks, mannerisms, talents, putting up an image that appeals to the masses, or merely just being yourself. To be able to think for yourself or operate on your own. It takes quite a lot to achieve such goals, but the question is, how far are we willing to go to get there? What exactly sparks that fiery passion for excellence? What pushes us to become the best we can be? Let's take a look in this book depicting totalitarianism along with several other pieces. 1984 by George Orwell tells a story of a man named Winston Smith living in an authoritarian society. Readers of this story witness the conception of his independent thinking amongst other brainwashed citizens and revolutionaries, and also the breakdown of his character when he reaches room 101. He begins to rebel against Big Brother one small step at a time, from writing down his thoughts on Big Brother in a hidden journal to joining the Brotherhood. What is perceived as being your best in this book is being able to think and live in your own way, as Winston's main goal is to be able to do so without being subject to punishment after and having to live under very strict rules. The constant watching of Big Brother and also the controlled matter of society is what compels Winston to rebel. The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider is a coming of age story that follows a boy known as Ezra Faulkner. Being mainly a popular kid since 8th grade until the summer of his senior year, he walks in on his girlfriend cheating on him and his knee is shattered in a car accident, as well as his athletic career and social life. The events that follow lead him to new interests, friends, and studies. He gets back into a debate club, catches up with an old friend, takes on a new aspect of his high school life, and meets an enigmatic yet intriguing girl. How Ezra had become popular in the first place was when he had cut all ties from his old friend due to an incident back in the summer, leading to grade 8. Him and his friend were in the back of a roller coaster and someone got decapitated during the ride, and their head had managed to fall into the arms of his old friend. He was subsequently humiliated at school. He had also abandoned any nerdy interests he had prior to grade 8 and joined the school's football team. After his losses, however, he learned that all that he had before the car accident wasn't all that great. At around the 3-quarter mark of the book, his former friends and ex-girlfriend try to make amends with Ezra, but he blows them off for leaving him so quickly during the incident. He begins to think to himself that his friends that he has now would have been beside him in the hospital, compared to the friends he had before when they never did anything to show that they were there for him. It was made clear what he wanted now, which was a trusting group of friends that he can call his family, rather than being well known around the school with his friendships not going any deeper than on the basis of we're on the same team or I hang out with you a lot. It may be a different case with his ex-girlfriend, but she was shown to be just as shallow. Having faced the losses of what can be said as everything, he is compelled to become the best he can be after gaining a new perspective, friends, and studies. Speaking of such hardship, the song Take It Back by Ed Sheeran talks of his struggles prior to his fame. He mentions his lifestyle in London midway through his career. He left school at the age of 16 and was sofa surfing for 4 years, usually staying at an audience member's place.
For 4 years I never had a place to stay, but it's safe to say that it kept me grounded like a paperweight. At 16 years old, yeah, I moved out of my home. I was Macy Gray, I tried to say goodbye and I choked and went from sleeping at a subway station to sleeping with a movie star and adding to the population. Not my imagination, I don't want to relax. Would it hurt your reputation if I put it on wax? I'll take it back now.
He was, however, driven by his passion for music, and it often led him to deviating from the usual handling of things, as it says in the additional live verse.
Oh, My dreams keep me awake at night, written in rhyme till I deliver the hype. Am I just living a lie? With this you must know that the numbers just sold. Whoa, will keep me going through the tough times. Dream with me, we forget 90% of it when we wake, but the other 10% it never fades. Dreaming dreams of day-to-day goals, stay awake loads, try to make the cut like the paper and razor blade. Oh, never give up, just remember just to hold out more. A couple years ago I couldn't just control that thought. You found me busking on the street when it was cold outdoors. Now I'm sweating on the stage of a sold out tour, writing love songs for the sake of it, never to make a hit. You can't fake talent and work ethic just to make it quick. I'm not a rapper, I'm a singer, I just take the piss. And most of these other guys are kids that Pulse's little sister has to babysit. That's just the way it is. Dreams your own, just set your goals and have the utmost faith in it. Tread your own path to never make it as a follower. You never know where you will go or you will be tomorrow.
He also stands against putting on an image for the sake of popularity, as a lot of music industry is based off of, sadly, choosing to be humble in his identity.
Schemes. I'm never having a stylist giving me tight jeans. Madison Square Garden is where I might be, but more likely you find me in the back room of a dive bar. My mates having a pint with McDade, discussing records we made, and every single second knowing that will never betray the way we were raised. Remembering our background, sat down. That's how we plan it out. It's time to take it back now.
The song has a consistent theme of image and hardship, with Ed mixing in his backstory, his daily life, and some tidbits of wisdom he learned during his time being in the industry. But the one thing that stands out the most in this song, aside from the storytelling Ed offers, is the fact that he had the dream of making it to the top on his mind through his experiences. It's funny, though, how a dream can drive a person to very far lengths. But there are instances where it may drive someone into an obsession, and quite possibly insanity.
Brad, show him how it's done. Boom. Sell me that pen. Watch. Go on.
Let me sell this pen.
That's my boy right there.
This pen.
Sell anything.
Why don't you do me a favor? Write your name down on that napkin for me.
I don't have a pen.
Exactly. Supply and demand, my friend.
You know what I'm saying? He's creating urgency for getting to want to buy the stock. It's something that they need. You know?
In the well-known film Wolf of Wall Street, directed by Martin Scorsese, Jordan Belfort, who was an intelligent man seeking to make a fortune, teamed up with his partner, Donny Azoff, and started a brokerage firm in an abandoned auto body shop known as Stratford Oakmont. Their company quickly grows from a staff of 20 to a staff of more than 250 people in Stratford's own building. How did they get the money, and was it legal?
Absolutely not.
Their status in the trading community and Wall Street grows exponentially as well, so much that the company files their initial public offerings through them. As their status and wealth grows, so do the amount of substances they use and abuse, and so do their lies. They draw attention like no other, throwing lavish parties for their staff when they hit the jackpot on high trades. That ultimately led to Belfort's feature on the cover of Forbes magazine, being called the Wolf of Wall Street. With the FBI onto Belfort's trading schemes, he devises new ways to cover up his tracks and watch his fortune grow. Belfort ultimately comes up with a scheme to stash their cash in a European bank, but with the FBI watching him like a hawk, it ultimately led to his downfall. So what does this mean? Money could be a motivator, as long as you get it legally.
My name is Jordan Belfort. The year I turned 26, I made $49 million, which really pissed me off because it was $3 shy of $1 million a week.
We're making a name for ourselves.
So follow me, you could about to go. I'm doing 500, I'm out of control. But there's nowhere to go, and there's no way to slow. If I knew what I knew in the past, I would have been like that on your.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles. You know what a fugazi is?
Oh, Fugazi. It's a fake.
Yeah, fugazi, fugazi. It's a wazi, it's a woozy, it's a fairy dust.
In the morning, and I'm zoning, I think I'm possessed. It's an omen, I keep it 300, like the Romans, 300. We're the Trojans, baby, we living in the moment. I've been a menace for the longest, and you know it, and you know it, and you know it, and you know it.
Come on. Yeah.
The emotionally visceral piece known as Whiplash, directed by Damien Chazelle, follows an ambitious 19-year-old jazz student named Andrew Neiman on his rather rough journey to become one of the greats of jazz history. Under the tutelage of Terence Fletcher, possibly the greatest teacher in the school, Schaefer Conservatory, he faces both physical and verbal abuse in his hands, a teaching method he constantly employs to bring out the best in his students. Andrew Neiman ends up distancing himself from his family, losing sleep and time from endless hours of strenuous practice, breaking up with his girlfriend, and eventually even being thrown out of the conservatory due to this incident.
Neiman, you're done. Gentlemen and ladies, I apologize on behalf of Schaefer Conservatory. Get off me! Fuck you! You Fletcher! You! Get off! Piece of you!
In the end, however, he ends up becoming what he refers to as great, blowing the audience and Fletcher out of the water with his virtuoso performance in the end. The ending, however, presents the audience with the question as to whether or not Andrew's sacrifices were worth making to achieve greatness, and if Fletcher's teaching methods are in any way effective. Damien Chazelle, the director of Whiplash, said himself in an interview, "To what extent is it the tyranny pushing people? And to what extent is it other stuff? I personally think fear is a motivator, and we shouldn't deny that. Someone like Fletcher preys on fear. I think there's a reason his methodology sometimes works, both in real life and on the screen. Fletcher's methodology is like, if there was an ant on this table and I wanted to kill it, I'd use a bulldozer. Yeah, you kill the ant, but you also do a lot of other damage. And in Fletcher's mindset, that's actually fine. Fletcher's mindset is, if I have 100 students and 99 of them are, because of my teaching, ultimately discouraged and crushed from ever pushing this art form, but one of them becomes Charlie Parker, it was all worth it. That's not a mentality I share, but in many ways, that's the story of the movie. He potentially finds his Charlie Parker, but he causes a lot of wreckage in that pursuit. Whether or not the physical and mental strain put on Andrew was worth it, he managed to unravel the musical genius within him and achieve great feats in music because of the constant pushing that Fletcher had on Andrew. Everyone starts off small in whatever path they walk. Andrew started off from being an ambitious student with a passion to being great and eventually breaking down and becoming an amazing musician with an obsession for perfection. Whether a person goes in their journey depends on how they walk it, and more in particular, what they do to get there. The message of John Jorgensen's spoken word piece, Tell Your Story, is within the title itself. He addresses everyone's tendency to hide their true self from the world. He talks about how everyone is afraid to open up, which is completely understandable since it's hard to really trust anyone, by telling his own story about, well, the first time he told his story, which took place in a church. The intention behind this piece is Christian.
Then one day, in front of a bunch of Christians, I was asked to tell my story. And at first, I thought, hell no, that'll be way too gory. They'll scream for my head when they find out I'm spiritually dead. They'll skin my hide when they see what's really inside. But somehow, I opened my mouth, and I spoke, and I spoke, and I spoke, until I cried. After sharing my story, others started telling theirs. Addiction, jealousy, lying, unforgiveness. It seemed that everybody there had some secret sickness. Everyone was struggling. Everyone was weak, just needing someone to give them the courage to speak or the permission. So I made it my mission to tell my story. You see, everyone has a secret that needs to be spoken.
Everyone has a silence that needs to be broken, but someone has to be the first one to talk. Someone has to be brave enough to share their walk. Even if you feel like it's more of a crawl, don't be ashamed. We all fall. And the biggest problem is believing the lie that you're the only one, so don't stall. Run and tell your story. I'm not saying you have to tell all, but if you feel it, answer the call and tell your story. In the right time and the right place, remove the mask from your face and weave a tale full of grace. Tell your story. Tell it far and tell it near. Tell it to anyone who will hear. Tell your story. Not just for yourself. Not just for others. Tell it for His glory.
Speaking of sharing stories, we also have some stories of our own to share from our own experiences. My first semester taking drama class was filled with many new experiences. I remember before setting foot into the drama room, I was thinking to myself, dang it, this class will have presentations literally every day. And I was deathly scared to attend it. I did eventually come to be comfortable in that kind of environment, and I subsequently learned to be more open to others. A lot of the new experiences I had there consisted of the neat games we played, the assignments we were given, and the moments I shared with the other kids in class. There was one experience that was unique to me that time. It was neither an assignment nor a game, nor was it something that got me to interact with people more. Usually a normal drama class would have an in-class skit assignment with a small criteria and 15 minutes of preparation with a quickly assembled group of kids. Or it would be time for practicing whatever performance we were assigned. My teacher, Mr. Travato, we'll call him T, had the projector and screen set up and asked everyone to gather in front of it. He had given some background on what we were doing that day, saying that the video that was going to be shown should be something we should pay attention to. And so the lights were turned off and the video was played. It was a VHS tape that was aged like cheese. It was filmed back in the 80s. It was a video recorded seminar that was given by a woman named Jackie Nink Flug, a survivor of a terrorist attack on a plane she was on to return to Cairo for teaching. She talked about how she was shot in the head but survived, although doing irreparable damage to her vision and short-term memory. In her storytelling, she told how she made certain choices during the attack, the general consensus of her choices being finding hope in the midst of chaos. She later went on to talk about how she lived after the incident. She lost her upper, lower, and right peripheral vision, along with a damaged membrane in her brain, greatly affecting her short-term memory. She had to look left, up, and down to get the whole picture, and she often got lost due to her vision. Furthermore, she sees only half a word as well as half a letter. Before the incident, she had a gift for memory. If she didn't have damage done to her brain, she would have been able to memorize her speech in 3 to 4 days. Her speech took her an entire year to memorize. And she stated that she had 3 options: to wallow in her self-pity, to hate the terrorists because of what they'd done to her, or to make do of what she had, push through and not let her problems bring her down. She then went on to say that you don't need to be shot in the head several thousand miles up in the air to feel powerless and hopeless, and that it's okay to feel that way in whatever situation you're in. She concluded her speech by stating that in any given circumstances, we are all given some kind of choice, whether we can do something to change what's around us or to change how we look at things in life. So what pushes us to become our best? It certainly doesn't mean being shot in the head, or sofa surfing for 4 years, or being physically or emotionally abused. What pushes people to become the best they can be is hardship. Gold is refined through long periods of time in a refiner's fire. Hardship and struggle in any form is what shapes us into the person we are now. like a sculptor chipping away at unwanted parts on his art to make it look better than it did previously. You see, a person can dream all they want about what they desire, but it won't come to life when fire isn't cooking. Whether in success or failure, we come out of those experiences as a better person in some way.